everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business. Looking forward to talking with Ben and Kevin, co-founders of Pretty Boy Cosmetics or skincare, excuse me, and best friends from college, started a business. Fellas, I love the story. I love the product. I came across you guys. The only thing I use on my face is like olive oil, and I saw it came up on my Instagram, so I bought it. There was a mix-up in my order somehow, and then you guys ended up sending me like what I got, and then another shipment for free, and it's been great. And so I appreciate it. And so great marketing. But I want to start off and talk about just starting a business in today's world, right? So it's 2026. We're in the world where people can start a business probably faster. AI can help accelerate ideas, but you still need to have a fundamental great concept, and you still have to have a lot of discipline, precision, and you have to work really, really hard. And so I just want to kind of talk about, how you guys started the business and what it, and just some tips for people, who are looking to start a business today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I mean, Kev can kind of give a highlight of our story, and then we'll both have different perspectives and probably the same perspectives on what it takes to start a business right now. Thank you for the customer service shout out. It's something we take super seriously, but at some point, our CFO is probably going to come after us for giving away so much free shit. So
Costco guy, though. We could just overrule them and just say we're selling the hot dogs for $1 no matter what.
Yeah, Costco. Absolutely. But you know what? Customer service is what it's all about. I mean, that customer service is what got me to email you to get on the podcast. And you never know where things happen. I just share this quick story. Like you never know how things ultimately happen, where this podcast could land somewhere where somebody gets your product. I wrote a book 7 years ago from LinkedIn. It ended up at a church newsletter and somebody in the church read the book and hired me, where I would have never thought in a million years would have gotten into a church letter in Kentucky. So you never know where like good things travel to.
No, totally agree, man. Totally agree. I'll tell my own story about that later on, but let's get into this. Kev, why don't you kick off?
Yeah. And I'll just say, I mean, customer service is huge for both of us, but it's Ben's baby. So credit to and we have a team behind us that we've kind of set up with our 3PL and everything that helps manage. It's a huge part of us. And I think anything for new founders and new businesses, every customer does matter. We want to carry that through as we continue to grow, but it's little things like that when you even compare it to going out to dinner and something happens and the waiter just gives you something free, no questions asked. The little experiences like that make you want to come back and still stick with the brand, because it's something so small can turn you off immediately. And there's a million brands out there, so you gotta support your customers and differentiate yourself. But yeah, I mean, quick kind of backstory. So we start. Ben and I are best friends from college. Both went to Ohio State. We're best friends since freshman year. Always wanted to start a business together. Ben grew up with kind of bad acne. I didn't really have much of a skincare routine like most guys. We're both active outside playing sports. I ended up developing a severe kind of redness when I was playing football. My freshman year, didn't really know how to handle it. Consider myself a confident individual. We go to your mom and sister. How do you fix this? It looks like I have a disease on my face. Thought it was a staph infection, not cleaning your equipment. They try to give you too many products. I'm I'm not sticking to this long ass routine. Got so bad, ended up going to the dermatologist, got diagnosed with kind of a form of eczema. It's called seborrheic dermatitis. I also have rosacea. There's no cure. You just have to have a super high quality skincare routine. And that was kind of my introduction to skincare. Kind of fast forward 10 years. Like I said, Ben and I always wanted to start a business. He's been going to the derm forever because he has extremely sensitive skin. I can only use certain products. I've been using steroids, just a basic routine with high quality ingredients. There's kind of nothing for the kind of active male. At the time, there's 1 million products for women, 1 million brands that actually have clinical backing, dermatologists would recommend. The only thing out for us, we would bring these kind of hyper masculine brands, smell like a rock, look like a caveman, that didn't really represent us as individuals, but we bring them to the derm hey, this is for guys. And they'd be these are horrible ingredients. You can't use this on your face. And we kind of got fed up. We're like, we have to use stuff. We want it simple. There's nothing built kind of for us. So we kind of went down this path of how do we build kind of a new gold standard for men's skincare exactly the way men want. We're different consumers than women. Guys don't want more than 3 products. You actually don't need more than 3 products when you talk to a dermatologist. Guys want still high-performing ingredients. A lot of guys struggle with acne, so it's not like guys don't want their face to look clean. You're trying to get jobs, you're trying to meet friends, trying to meet a significant other. Like, guys struggle with confidence too, and we want to look good, but it's still such a confusing world, so we never know how to approach it. And we're like, this is so confusing. We've struggled with this to figure out what to do. Why isn't there a solution for us? But they want high-performing ingredients. Texture is a huge thing. Guys don't want thick, greasy white textures that don't blend in. And then obviously simplicity and a brand that you can kind of resonate with. And we went down this path, like, what is it, 5, almost 6 years ago. We did 2 years of development, launched our first product, did a ton of surveying. Credit to Ben. That's like something we'd always recommend. Like, we did a ton of surveying and data to really find out what our customer wanted before we actually built the brand and product. Versus just launching it and going. And I think that kind of saved us because in today's age, product is really everything. That's the foundation of business that we really believe. We launched, we had a great product. We have 2 products out right now, been growing quick. And it's been cool. Skincare should be a part of your life, but it shouldn't take over your life. So we think we think we've been fortunate to kind of build something special that people are really resonating with. And you talk about customer service. We're really just trying to serve our customer at the end of the day.
Great. Great story, Kevin. Anything to add, Ben?
No, I think he nailed it. It's been really fun, and it's an exciting market. Like, if you pay attention, it's a category right now that's getting a lot of hype, and we think we came in at the right time. Timing's everything. Obviously, like, I don't know if this company would have worked 10 years ago, but I think it's poised to work really well right now for all the reasons you said.
Let me ask you guys a question. So you get into this category. It's good timing. There's how do you then build a marketing plan where what was your guys' intention when it came to building a marketing plan that really was rememberable?
The funny thing is Ben and I are 2 sales guys background. We're both in medical sales. This is our first business, so I think it's definitely been a learning curve for me who handles more of the marketing. I think, and we've grown a lot, especially over these past couple of years. At the end of the day, I think our goal was to understand our customer. If you look at like Ogilvy or some of these marketing stuff, like my whole thing with that is like, there's all these different marketing hacks, which I've fallen into and have grown from, is if you can just really understand our customer and give them a product they want, understand what they like to see, which we're still constantly trying to validate, you can kind of position your marketing and obviously have a good product to a customer. Marketing kind of becomes easier. Like, at the end of the day, it's, do you know your customer? Do you know what they want? And are you delivering the message to them at the right time? And I think that was a little bit of a struggle early on that I definitely struggled with. You see all these like big things that people want to do, but like when you're starting a business, you need to learn what the customer wants and how to sell the product, and then really start focusing on, okay, like, how do we want this to look? How do we want the customer to feel? How do we want to communicate? And are you doing that at the right time? And sometimes I think in the very beginning, which I've fallen victim to, is when you see all these big brands that have all this funding, we're bootstrapped. You can't do everything right at once, and you can't do maybe some of these things that honestly might not even drive that much value. And for a bootstrapped company, you need value immediately.
Yeah. You're talking about, I mean, I love the way that you're talking about it. And it's really kind of a mini master's class of everything that you just said. And then the hard work is, talking to a lot of people to actually find out what they want. You're articulating it. You've done a lot of the research. How do you continue, to find out what people want? I mean, it seems to be changing so quickly in today's world. And so how do you kind of keep that? How do you keep that in motion?
So I think this is a continuation of what he said, and I'll answer that question like pointedly. Is early on for someone starting a business, you see a bunch of different things. You've basically been in the consumer seat, like all the way up until all of a sudden now you're like in the inverse seat. So as a consumer, and Kevin's very creative. Like all the stuff he's talking about getting excited with, it's like one of his biggest skill sets is he can go and see something cool and be like, how would I do this for our company? But training yourself to get out of the consumer lens and into the marketing lens while still staying focused on the consumer is a very difficult skill set. So when you see other people do stuff, we're used to taking that in, being on the other side of the screen. Like, wow, that's really cool. That sold me. That ad campaign was really cool. That influencer talking about them is really cool. Oh, TikTok shop. Like I bought something on there. I've sat on TikTok for, hours at a time. And then when you flip that kind of seat around, you have to figure out the things that are going to move the needle the most in this time period that you need them to, so that you can just like move units and sell products and keep delivering. But you have to stay core to like your true message and what the values of the company are. So I think the way that we do this, it's very simple. And I think this goes into what a lot of people would stand to benefit from who are running small teams, is that at the end of the day, when you're a small company, like the best way to get your product in front of people is to master like one channel. That channel could be Facebook ads. That channel could be TikTok. That channel could be Amazon. That channel could be organic. It could be really anything. You could be an influencer-led company, retail first. But you got to get really, really good at one thing and then figure out what the people within that specific demographic need to kind of continue elevating you and get you to the next tranches, where all of a sudden now you've reached an inflection point that says, hey, you need to go and expand to this other channel. Like you have maxed out, or you're starting to max out what's capable on the one thing you're really good at. So to answer your question, I think the way we do that is one, like our channel's meta. We're pretty good at it, and we've unlocked some stuff in the last 6 months. Kevin's unlocked some stuff in the last 6 months that's really propelled us. A lot of that is just like creative. You're just putting out a ton of different types of creative to see what resonates. The stuff that spends well and gets the right metrics on platform are your signal to say, like, this is what our customers want to see. This is what's acquiring a new person into our brand. When you send retention style stuff, you're seeing, oh, this retains better than this does. We're going to lean more into that. And that slowly but surely over time builds the muscle, like the brand brain muscle of saying, these are the things we should talk about. This is the way to show them that's going to get people to like engage with it the most. This is the type of content they want to see on our organic and our kind of retention efforts. Beyond that, like Kevin mentioned at the beginning, we do a ton of surveying. We send out like survey monkeys all the time. We have them in automated flows. We send them out as campaigns when we just want a quick bit of information. We use post-purchase surveys. We get on the phone with customers. So I think you mentioned this, John, but staying super close to the customer throughout this whole process. And like, we're very big fans of like doing the unscalable stuff as long as you possibly can. So getting on the phone with the customer and understanding, like breaking down the ad that made them convert and understanding like why that was and what they're like outside of things that Meta can't track. What are your hobbies? Are you married? Like, what do you do for fun? What sports teams do you pay attention to at brands? So I think it's equal combination of going back to the marketing plan and kind of like what your question asked is like, you've got to stay really focused on getting one channel dialed in and don't let the noise creep in to give you more noise than signal, basically, in those conversations or in those activities. And then from there, staying super just on point and intimate with your customers, especially like he said, we're sales guys. Like we're not used to sitting behind a computer all day. Wow. It was way better when we were just out interacting with people and we're trying to get back to that place with this company. But right now, the thing that's going to take us is dialing in those channels that lead to our growth.
I loved everything. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, I just wanted to touch on one thing, and again, credit to Ben on this, and creatives listening probably aren't going to want to hear this because I suck at Excel and thankfully have Ben to help. But like, I think the biggest unlock too is you see all these things that you want to do. Like people have funding, you have no idea. It looks like it's working, but you have no idea of the lift. Like mastering one channel is something that we focused on, but it really came down to also like tracking too. So like we have a very detailed like marketing tracking and performance sheet for like everything from persona to angle to hook to time length to the style of the video. Like, and that way you can start piecing together minimal lift. They all stack up. They all stack up to, equal big gains. And I think that was a huge unlock. So like, we're obviously putting in a lot of creative volume, but we're doing it from a quality perspective too. and then you start really dialing in on the messaging, the personas, and all that. And I think like if we would have started that early, which I know Ben was pushing for, but something I struggled with, probably could have had some unlocks even sooner. But that would be like the biggest thing is you really got to be data focused. And for most creatives, being data focused sucks, but it's just something you have to do, and it has to be part of the business. But yeah, the biggest thing, psychographics is something we're really focused on right now. And even when you scale up to $100 million or whatever, like that's only going to allow you to find new people to go after, new channels, new areas. Like, so that's just something that has to be a part of your business, and it's going to allow you to succeed.
I love everything you guys are talking about. It really is, I think, community, like a mini master's class, PhD, because you're able to talk about things and make it sound so simple. But there's a lot of complicated and a lot of hard work behind it. I think one of the things I'm hearing is it's so important to pick the right business partner where your skill sets complement each other, and you can, challenge each other, but they complement each other. And you can complement each other. And so it's great where there's no ego in the partnership. So I think that's great. But I want to talk about something that I think is probably one of my favorite things that you guys said, which is I loved everything you said. But a lot of times I'm talking to companies and they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars on marketing agencies. And they'll ask my opinion on something. And I say, and I'll suggest to leadership, C-level people, when was the last time you picked up the phone and called 10 customers? And a lot of them say, oh, I never thought of that, right? And so one of the things I'll suggest is, why don't you call 1 to 5 customers every single day and never stop? I'm not taking away from marketing agencies. I think they add huge value and they're great. But nobody's going to give you better feedback than if an owner of a company or a C-level exec calls you from a company, especially, whether you're small or mammoth, and says, hey, we know you bought the product. Can I talk to you for a few minutes? Not many people will say no. And the intel that you can get and the brand loyalty you can get and the amount of people that people will tell, oh yeah, the owner, a founder of the company called me. Can you just talk about the reaction of when you call people, what they say, what those sound like?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. One, they're always just impressed. I think another thing we have going for us is that this is like major kudos to what Kev's been able to do is like a lot of people think we're a lot bigger than we are. So I think then it even creates this like extra little, reaction out of that when it's like, we present as a very large company, I think.
That's the beauty of today's world. You can do that.
Yeah.
Easily.
So they're always very excited about that. What we continue to see is it's interesting. One is we do validate. I think there's like a level of imposter syndrome that goes into anything that you do in this world. And so, in a lot of ways, like we've said, like our company shouldn't exist because there's plenty of companies who are capable of making skincare products like as good as we do, or who have good products, who have just like left this category completely kind of in the dust for a long time. Now they've tried, like there've been, again, timing's everything, male perception of like using these products has changed drastically in the last 5 years. So like that, I don't want to discount that, but the product itself shouldn't really exist. And one of the reasons we say that is we didn't really take like an insanely unique approach. Kevin's a big sports guy. I haven't played sports competitively in quite some time. But in sports, like there's, go back to the fundamentals. And that was in a sense, like the way that we approach this of, well, there's like all these massive brands that are using like these ingredients that have been studied for literally like 100 years now. Why don't we just take more of those ingredients and put them into like one product instead of like 15, just to make it simpler for guys. A lot of guys don't like the, like Kevin said, texture stuff. So, can we make it feel better? And the reason I'm saying that is I think each time we get on with these people, we find out that like that initial idea of ours is what is really driving this. Like the marketing, the content, it's all amazing. But like what really happened is we did solve a problem where guys do know that this is better for their health. They know it's better for preventative aging. They know this is the right thing to do, but they felt very, very confused. They didn't like the products they were using. They thought it was too many steps. They didn't feel good. And like every brand that they would buy them from, like they were like, well, this isn't something that makes me feel cool. It's not elevating my persona. So I think like that's one of the really cool things that we see from them. And then on top of that is like, we do just always get these little things. It could be, someone says like, hey, like this was one of the most interesting insights from one of our customers. Got on the phone with him and he's like, I should be a subscriber. I love your product. Every time I'm about to subscribe, you send a campaign that has a bigger discount than the subscription. Like, why are you guys discounting yourselves so much to returning buyers? It's just preventing me from signing up from the sub. I'm just waiting for you to send the next big discount. So you learn like these little things also about the ops, about how the website works, various messaging. We have customers who have like directly texted or emailed and been like, hey, I really like the new style of ads. Like, why'd you do that? It presents this way. That's really cool. Like, lean more into that. And those are things that, again, like you'll never actually get without talking to the people.
Right.
Like, there's no data point that exists in any of these platforms that tells you that type of stuff.
I think it's great. You guys talk about the fundamentals and sports, and one of my favorite books is by Michael Jordan. He wrote a book, I don't know if you've read it, called I Can't Accept Not Trying. It's a book. It takes like 5 minutes to read. It's a very simple book. But in it, one of the chapters, I'm the slowest reader in the world, and this book takes like 10 minutes to read.
I don't know. I might.
Yeah, you and Kev can have a competition.
Right. So, but he has a chapter in it called Fundamentals, and one of the things he talks about is that, Larry Bird was not the best basketball player, but he was the most fundamentally sound, which is why he could evolve into what he did. And there were so many people who didn't focus on the fundamentals, and at some point they just couldn't grow their skill set because they didn't have the fundamentals to base. So I love talked about as far as just, think community, life is moving quickly, AI, technology, we can name a lot of other things, but the fundamentals really don't change. And so I love that you guys are talking about the fundamentals in that way. Talk to me about, running a business. You said you present yourself as a larger business than you are, but how is your business run, right? So can you talk a little bit about the operations piece where, people can get some insight, because you can run a big business today with not a lot of employees, with virtual people, with AI. I think, there's been many people. I think Mark Cuban is one of the guys. I can't remember if it's exactly him, but, that someone's going to start $1 trillion business in their basement with less than 10 people. So the perception today that you have less than 10 people in your industry, in your business, people don't care as long as the product is still really good. And that can actually be a benefit. So can you just talk a little bit about how you run your business?
Yeah, I'll kick this off. I'll answer from like a business ops side. Kevin can answer from a marketing ops side. And like, just if you could clarify at any point, like, oh, I'm looking for something different. The way that I would start this, and as we've helped a couple other like younger brands than us kind of get ramped up, like this is kind of the same thing I'll tell them, and Kevin will tell them. I firmly believe, and I think we learned this a little bit too late, and this is also maybe just different because like VC money 15 years ago was like everywhere. 7 years ago, it started drying up. COVID time, it started drying up. Like financial excellence and understanding is just a mandatory these days, and especially if you're self-funded. But even if you're like a lowly funded company, maybe do a friends and family round. So operating the business, I think, starts with having like a super, super comprehensive understanding of your unit economics and how that translates to marketing. Yeah. I would say if anyone was to start a business today, like after you do all the fun stuff of like jot down all your ideas and think about what the brand name will be and like the stuff that gets you excited enough to make a company, you should then dedicate basically pre-launch all of your time to basically building like even a very simplistic P&L and like 3-statement financial model that allows you to forecast revenue, takes into account your unit economics and your COGS, and make sure that you understand that your margin is scalable. So the reason I say that is like our entire business does operate off of basically one document, and we learned it a little bit too late, but now it's dialed into a point where we can really look at every function of the business and what one little decision will mean to being able to run. And I'll give you like kind of 2 really clear examples on that. We about 4 months ago now had a complete inflection of the business. We were having really tough rising acquisition costs. And all of a sudden, like one ad went nuts. And so like our acquisition costs cut by like 60, 70%, basically like in 1 week. Our overarching business model and how we operate the business told us like, oh, we should be fine. Like inventory will come down to the wire. What it didn't account for was that when that CAC dropped as much as it did, the actual on a monthly basis, the shortage of inventory was going to actually be over like a 2.5 week period. And so even though at the monthly level, we thought we'd be good, we were going to run out 2.5 weeks earlier than we could have predicted. And so when looking at like how we actually operate, it's very much a data-driven historical performance lens of looking at what decisions have to be made and what outcomes or assumptions need to be true to make the whole thing work. We basically have a standard of there's only 3 things at this stage that matter to us. One is keeping cash in the business account to like continue operating the business. Right. So like everything is about whether or not there's going to be cash to do something. If there's not, then no matter how good things are going or how exciting an idea sounds, is like, we don't have the money to do that. So we're just not going to do it. From there, it's making sure that we have enough creative to fund or fuel the scale that is needed from like the acquisition channels we have. And then from there, it's like dialing in the right offer that makes us profitable and acquires the most customers and leads them coming back. So I'll pause there in terms of operating. Like, again, just the way you asked the question, if there's anything else you want to exactly hear there, no, I hope that was kind of like helpful. But Kevin on the marketing ops side does a lot of different things because, like I said, 2 of the 3 things that have to be true for us right now basically involve marketing, having enough creative and having the right offer to make all of the other stuff that funds that operating model work. And the last thing I'll end with on that before you go, Kevin, is like, I say how important these models are, and I do genuinely believe that, but you also have to like kind of be able to synthesize the information in real time to say this model is literally only as good as whether it comes true. Like it is just numbers on a piece of paper. The reason it's so important is that it shows you the entire journey to get to where you want to go. And if you don't have all of that journey plotted out, like you're going to get caught with your pants down at some point. We've gotten caught with our pants down multiple times, and each time provides this like very clear, specific thing we have to learn to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I think it's led to us course correcting many times and like avoiding repeatable mistakes as a result of being very focused on like the numbers piece of the game. But the numbers are sometimes boring, and they're supplemented by all the fun stuff that happens in marketing.
It's great. Well said, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, and we've evolved obviously just with like, you know, like you said, I mean, we've been diving into AI and everything, but I think, yeah, it really all does start with like the operation side, and Ben's been crushing it from that front. Like I always say, like I just make the car look good, but he kind of drives it and makes sure that it can actually run. Like that's kind of our like relationship. I think, you know, once we figured out like we need to focus on one channel, we tried other things. You know, if you can't do organic, if you can't do TikTok, like what is it to be successful? Let's focus on that. We dived into obviously being able to get very detailed in like performance marketing and actually being able to analyze what works. That one ad popped off. We got it to that point just from, you know, tinkering with like different ad formats. One finally popped off, and now we're just building off that winner. And that's why we've been able to continue performance. I think the biggest thing over the like past year is like Ben pushing me to really build this kind of creative funnel and like kind of factories. That way we can handle scale. So like having a whole process set up from editors, if I'm making the content, videoing, designers, like we use ClickUp to manage all this whole process so we can kind of scale up or scale down like the creative needed. But it's all run through the operation side of, hey, this is our break even, like first order profitability, which we're like focusing on. Like everything is kind of run through there. Like where are we at with inventory? Can we push? Can we not push? Hey, if we want to maybe take a risk on some type of marketing, do we want to test another channel if we're at that point? Well, we can't do that now because if we show any glimpse of success, maybe we'll run out of inventory. So like we had to build up the side of marketing to be able to handle the scale, find winning ads to be able to sell this thing. We got to that point, but everything really is based on the operation side from Ben to kind of manage of like what we can't do and can do for the success of the business.
Right.
So it goes hand in hand, but like that's such an important thing that Ben's been crushing. And then we learned like inventory can make or break a business. And, over the past, like, especially like the past 3 years, we've had so many points where like, oh shit, like we kind of popped off a little bit. We ran out of inventory. We got to turn ads off for 6 months. And like, you can't swing it, 3 strikes, you're out. You can't keep missing on momentum. And obviously these things are going to continue to happen as you grow. You're going to have those situations again. Inventory is always going to be a struggle, but like the best you can dial that piece in and what works for the business, so you can grow profitably and successfully to not continuously like running out of product, the better you'll be.
It's great.
And can I just add one last thing on that? It's super quick, John. Kevin mentioned this. Like anyone who's at our stage or younger, and even some people bigger, there are those times where things start working and firing on all cylinders, and you just get so excited. Like this game it's all peaks and valleys. And so like when the peaks come, you get really excited and you go like, I want to burn this thing to the ground right now. Like I have to maximize every single good thing that can come of this. And I think what we have realized now as a result of so many of those ups and downs is that stability is way more comforting and can actually lead to more excitement in the long run. So like when you have those things firing on all cylinders, like make sure you take a step back and be like, well, if this keeps going this way, what's it going to bring for me 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, a year down the road? And am I willing to trade off a short-term dopamine hit of like increased sales or whatever in exchange for multiple stockouts, low cash, customers leaving because we can't fulfill their subscriptions, like all that stuff. And I think it's just not worth it. And we finally got to that place. So like it just feels a lot more manageable, but it also leads to more excitement because you're going, okay, well, now we see what is possible. Let's put a plan in place to maximize next time instead of being like knee-jerk reaction every time you feel like something's going good or bad and feeling like you have to make all these changes. Yeah. Stability leads to like just way more comfort when doing the whole thing, and it makes the whole thing feel a lot better.
I'm going to be 54 this year, and I started an internet company when I was 23 with my brother and a buddy out of college. And 2 years after we started it, we sold it. And the dopamine rush that we would get, like just growing the bit, it's very real. It's so exciting. It's so fun. It's addicting. And then I read a book called Mastery by George something or other. I can't remember it. And the book is about, the business really is about living on the plateau. And when you can live on the plateau, that's where really the magic comes. And there's less, there's less roller coaster in the business. So just to echo your point, it is just raising the level of awareness of that for somebody who is starting a business it's great. That is great sound advice. Fellas, I love your wisdom that you shared as far as talking about picking up the phone and calling clients, the importance of stability, every client. I mean, those are things that seem very fundamental, but I think a lot of times the bigger a company gets, the further away they get away from it. And as owners of businesses, the bigger the company gets, the further you get away from like the grassroots of the business, which is why I think we're going to see a lot of businesses with 10 people grow faster because they're always going to have their finger on the pulse of the customer and how that customer needs or buying habits or, platforms that they're on. I love how you talked about mastering one platform, maybe shifting. And if you can stay ahead of real time on that, that's great things. What's one thing you've learned about yourself being an entrepreneur and starting this business that you didn't think that was new to you?
On my side, I think it has been that you are constantly capable of learning things that feel like insanely uncomfortable to you at onset. I got a C- in college accounting. I finished with like a 2.9 GPA.
Amen.
And now I'm responsible for the P&L and learning like very comprehensive topics on that. And I think early on, I found myself deferring to always needing to go ask the person the question, like, how do I do this? I don't want to do this wrong. And I think knowing that you are just capable truly of learning like very complex topics, very different. It doesn't have to be complex in like an academic sense, like just complex for how you have historically like done things and feels very uncomfortable. And like the follow up with that is that this is the most comfortable I've ever been with failure. And I think, both Kevin and I are perfectionists in our own ways. And I think sometimes when you are a perfectionist, it can lead you to avoid doing the things that would detract from being perfect. And so I think it's really important that like you lean into that failure. You hear all the big business people talk about it, but like
that's true.
Lean into the failure, lean into making the mistakes and know that mistakes are correctable. Try to avoid preventable mistakes, try to avoid repeating mistakes, but like those mistakes teach you a lot. And so you're capable of learning more than you think. You're capable of doing more than you think. And like, you're only going to achieve that if you get really comfortable with like screwing things up and like stumbling through it yourself. Like you can't always have, kind of a parachute. You got to sometimes just like let yourself kind of free fall and figure it out.
Well said. I was great at math in college. I hated accounting. I could not take it. I dropped it. I didn't even go to the business school because I couldn't pass it. I hated accounting. And I remember always thinking, I'm going to have an accountant anyway, so who cares? But to your point, accounting was the worst. Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I also wasn't great at school either. So I went there to play ball, not school, as one of my teammates said. But I think Ben and I are both pretty self-aware, and I think a lot of founders are too, honestly. And it's weird to be like self-aware of what you need, but still don't act on it sometimes. And I think just honestly, this is more just like self-reflection over the past couple weeks because Ben's really good at this. It's something I need to be better about is like being stubborn. We talk about like struggling in school. Like, yeah, I definitely struggled. And honestly, like always wanting to start a business was kind of like a fuck you to a lot of people that thought I was an idiot or whatever. And they're going to be working in our cubicle while Ben and I are on vacation. So, but I think asking for help is like something I definitely still need to get better about. Like when I like self-reflect on that, Ben's really good at this. So, it's something I think like, I love learning and asking for help, but I think starting a business is so hard that sometimes being stubborn to try to figure it out, I don't ask for help enough. And I think you should always just constantly be doing that. You can never stop learning or getting help from people that have done it better, or have not done it better, but have done it before you and actually have the experience. So we are in a lot of like founder groups and stuff like that, always asking and trying to like connect with people that are multiple steps ahead of us. So it's just something that people should always be doing. Like you can't get anywhere on your own. It's fun. Like I come from a team sport background, so it's something I still like work on. You want to try to do it yourself, but I think that's something that kind of surprised me because like being self-aware, I'm like, no, I mean, I do like learning and working with people that are better than me, come from a team background, but then you notice, well, I'm not doing that enough as much as I think I am. So
it's good. Awareness is step number one. I love that. And I think we all need our edge, kind of pushes us to your point. All right. So fellas, everything you're talking about, you're learning a lot of hands-on. Is there a book that you would recommend also somebody read that maybe had an impact on you?
Yeah, what's funny, when we were talking about, or when I knew we were redoing this, I remembered the books I said. I remember this question. Sorry for anyone listening. We tried doing this and we had some technical issues. So I'm going to give you the answer and I'm going to give it a caveat.
Yeah.
My answers are Amp It Up. It's by the Snowflake CEO. I'm forgetting his name right off the top. It's just talking about urgency in kind of corporate structure. So Amp It Up is pretty self-explanatory. And then specific to the number stuff, real talk, simple numbers, or simple numbers, straight talk. That's just like a great, no matter if you're like, unless you're truly an investment banker level of finance, like if you're just owning finance for a company, like it just simplifies a lot of that stuff for me. It was really impactful. Both amazing books. I think you should read them. I love to read. I read every day, either fiction or nonfiction, just because I enjoy it. the caveat to all this is like not to detract from the importance of reading good business books and doing good business plans. Like the biggest impedance to action is inaction. So like you're gonna like read those books when you have the free time. If you enjoy them, go do the thing. You're gonna learn way more from just like doing the thing than you can from a lot of books. And I think I've kind of even realized in myself early on, I was defaulting a lot to like, what do the experts say? How can I go read this thing from this person? And what's that going to do for me? And it definitely absolutely helps you gain perspective. But again, shiny object syndrome's real. If you read a book and want to go implement everything in that book, it might detract from what you actually need to do to move the needle. So like, just always focus on moving the needle, use books and podcasts and all that other stuff just to supplement your learning. So that's it for me.
Great.
Yeah. And I agree with everything he said there too. Cause yeah, you are trying to start a business to do something different. So don't always like, trust your gut at some points, like move the needle. Obviously you got to do the right things. Like there are some right, wrong things that you just can't do. But I like Purple Cow from Seth Godin. I think I said that last time, like that's a good marketing book, but yeah. For me, like, especially on like the marketing side, like there's a lot of it is going to come the landscape of the world changes so frequently, so some of these books like sometimes can be a little outdated, so you really have to kind of there is a lot of testing that goes in that. But the one thing I would say, like there's like the Marty Neuheimer, David Ogilvy, like just reading some of their stuff, like we talk about the fundamentals haven't changed in marketing. It's just new places to market, knowing who knows their customer the best, who's making the best product that is serving that customer, and are you delivering the right message that those customers want to see, especially at like the right time. Like that hasn't changed. It didn't change when TV came out. It didn't change when social media came out. Like stick to the fundamentals, like read up to some of the best people. A lot of them have good fundamentals fundamental advice. But then like Ben said, at the end of the day, you do have to just go do it. And sometimes you end up creating a new way of doing things that becomes the gold standard or the new thing to try. So
right. Well said. Great place to end. Fellas, tell everybody where they can buy your products, connect with you, and anything else you want to share.
Yeah, you can buy us online, yoprettyboy.com. We're on Instagram. We're on Amazon as well. Amazon's a big place. We know a lot of guys like to buy on Amazon, so we're there too. But we're on a few. We're on Revolve Beauty retailer. But yeah, Amazon, and then our direct website, yoprettyboy.com would be the main places.
Guys, I appreciate it. I feel like this is a great for anybody who didn't go to business school. This applies to if anybody who went to business school, being respectful to business schools. Probably learn more from listening to the two of you. This was great, fundamentally sound, and I loved everything you guys shared. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys being on the podcast, and I wish you continued great success. You got a great product, you got a great partnership, you got great mindsets. I think community. We talk a lot about fundamentals, growing your business. And just staying on the pulse of the business through understanding what your clients want, making sure that as you guys talked about, your client matters. If I'm going to extract one thing, if you are an owner of a business, if you have clients of any type, pick them up, talk to them, and ask them what they want. Stay connected to the client. Your business will grow. Fellas, I appreciate you both. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Been a pleasure.
Thanks for having us.